You wake to the sound of conch shells echoing across Lake Texcoco. The air is cool and thin at this altitude, carrying the scent of wet earth and smoke from 1,000 cooking fires. Through the doorway of your stone house, you see the first light touching the twin peaks of the Templo Mayor, the great pyramid that rises above everything else in this floating city. You are a craftsman in Tenochtitlan, the heart of the Mexico world, the most powerful city in all the lands you know. Your home sits on one of the many islands connected by canals and bridges, part of a city that seems to float on the water itself. Around you, your neighbors are already stirring. You hear the rhythmic grinding of stone on stone as women prepare maize for the morning meal. A child runs past, carrying a clay water jar from the nearest canal. You step outside onto the narrow stone walkway. The canals are already crowded with canoes gliding silently through the morning mist. Farmers bring vegetables from the chinampas, the ingenious floating gardens that feed this city of 200,000 souls. You watch an elderly man pole past, his canoe stacked high with brilliant red tomatoes and green chilies. He raises a hand in greeting. You return the gesture. The city is awakening in layers. First the farmers and fishermen, then the craftsmen like yourself, then the merchants, the priests, the warriors, the nobles. By the time the sun clears the eastern mountains, every level of this carefully ordered world will be in motion. You walk toward the center of the city, following one of the main causeways that connects the islands. The stones beneath your feet are perfectly fitted, smooth from generations of footsteps. On either side, the water reflects the growing light. You pass a shrine where an old woman places flowers and copal incense, murmuring prayers to Tlatelolco, the rain god who keeps the crops growing. As you approach the sacred precinct, the scale of Tenochtitlan becomes clear.
Step right up.
The Templo Mayor dominates the skyline, its twin staircases rising steeply toward the heavens. One temple for Huitzilopochtli, the god of war and sun. One for Tlaloc, the giver of rain and life. Around the Great Pyramid, smaller temples and palaces spread out in careful geometric patterns. This is the heart of an empire that stretches from the northern deserts to the southern jungles. You pass a group of young warriors, their faces painted, their bodies marked with the scars of battle. They wear quilted cotton armor and carry obsidian-edged wooden swords. These are the men who have brought tribute from conquered peoples, who have taken captives for the gods. They do not look at you. You are beneath their notice, a maker of simple tools in a world ruled by those who take life rather than shape stone. But you take pride in your work nonetheless. The obsidian blades you craft are sharper than any metal. Your needles of bone and cactus spine are prized by the embroiderers who create the magnificent feather mosaics worn by nobles. By mid-morning, you have reached Tlatelolco, the northern district whose market is said to be the largest gathering of trade in the known world. As you enter the great plaza, the noise and color wash over you like a wave. 60,000 people or more move between the stalls. The space is so vast that you cannot see from one end to the other. Everything in the world can be found here. There are sections for every trade, every craft, every need. You pass through the featherworkers' quarter, where artisans create cloaks and headdresses from the brilliant plumage of quetzals and hummingbirds. The goldsmiths sit in their own area, crafting jewelry with techniques passed down through centuries. You see jade vendors, pottery sellers, weavers displaying cotton cloth dyed in colors that seem to glow in the sunlight. The food sections overflow with abundance. Roasted maize, tamales wrapped in leaves, turkey meat cooked with chili and tomatoes, cacao beans ground into thick, bitter chocolate reserved for nobles and warriors. The scent of 100 different dishes mingles with the smell of flowers, incense, and the earthy aroma of the lake itself. You pass a platform where slaves stand, waiting to be purchased. Their eyes are downcast. Some are war captives from distant regions. Others have sold themselves to pay debts. This too is part of the order of things. In one corner, a merchant from the coast displays exotic goods, shells, colorful feathers from tropical birds, jaguar pelts. You pause to admire an obsidian mirror, polished so smooth it reflects like dark water. The merchant notices your interest and begins to speak of his recent journey, but a customer calls him away. Warriors move through the crowd, their presence parting the masses like a stone parts water. Above everything, market inspectors patrol the aisles, ensuring that measures are honest, that goods are not spoiled, that order is maintained. This market feeds an empire, and it runs with the precision of a temple ritual. If you're finding these glimpses into lost worlds fascinating, consider subscribing to journey further into history's forgotten days. You purchase the materials you need and begin the walk back to your district. The sun is high now, the heat pressing down on the city. You stop at a public fountain to drink and splash water on your face. A group of women are gathered there, and you hear fragments of their conversation. One speaks of her brother, a merchant who travels the coastal routes. He returned recently with strange tales. He spoke of towers that float on the water, taller than any temple. Of men with pale skin like bone, wearing clothes of metal that cannot be pierced by arrows. Of creatures like giant deer that these strangers ride upon. Of weapons that roar like thunder and kill from a distance. Another woman dismisses these stories. Travelers always exaggerate, she says. They want to seem important, to have seen wonders that justify the dangers of their journeys. The coast is far away. What happens there has nothing to do with life in Tenochtitlan. But the first woman lowers her voice. She says the strangers ask about gold, always gold. They ask about Moctezuma, the emperor. They ask about the road to Tenochtitlan. And in some coastal towns, local rulers have welcomed them, formed alliances with them. There are those who chafe under Mexica rule, who see these strangers as potential liberators from tribute obligations. You listen but do not join their conversation. What do you know of coastal politics or strange visitors? You know the feel of obsidian under your tools, the satisfaction of a blade flaked to perfect sharpness. These great matters are for nobles and priests to contemplate. Still, as you walk away, you think about the merchants' tales. Towers on water. Metal clothing. Weapons of thunder. If such things exist, they are surely the work of gods or sorcerers. And what concern are gods and sorcerers to a craftsman in the greatest city the world has ever known? The afternoon sun slants across the city as you return to your workshop. You pass through a residential district where the houses of nobles rise 2 stories high, their walls decorated with bright murals, their courtyards planted with gardens. Water flows through carefully constructed aqueducts, bringing fresh water from the mainland springs. In contrast, your own neighborhood is modest. The houses are smaller, the walls plain. But even here, there is order, cleanliness, a sense of pride in the city's magnificence.
May we go play?
You pass children playing a ball game in a small courtyard, their laughter echoing off the stone walls. You think about the empire that supports all this. The tribute that flows into Tenochtitlan from hundreds of subject towns and cities. Cacao from the hot lands. Jade from distant mountains. Feathers from jungle birds. Cotton, maize, beans, salt, gold. All of it carried by endless lines of porters along roads and causeways that span the breadth of the known world. This system has stood for generations. Tenochtitlan sits at the center like a spider in its web, powerful and patient. The armies of the Mexica are undefeated. The gods are appeased by constant sacrifice, keeping the sun in motion, the rains falling in their season, the cosmic order intact. What could possibly threaten such power? As the sun begins its descent toward the western mountains, you climb to the flat roof of your house. From here, you can see across the rooftops to where the Templo Mayor rises against the sky. Smoke drifts upward from the summit. The priests are performing the evening rituals, ensuring that the sun will have the strength to journey through the underworld and return tomorrow. The city glows in the golden light. The causeways stretch outward like spokes from a wheel's hub, connecting Tenochtitlan to the mainland. You can see the other cities ringing the lake, Texcoco to the east, seat of learning and poetry, Xochimilco to the south, famous for its chinampas, Coyoacan, Azcapotzalco, Tlacopan. All part of the alliance system that Tenochtitlan dominates. Your wife calls from below. The evening meal is ready. You descend to where your family gathers around the cooking fire. There are tortillas, a sauce of tomatoes and chilies, a small portion of fish from the lake. It is simple food, but it is enough. You are not rich, but neither do you go hungry. This is the promise of Tenochtitlan: order, stability, a place for everyone in the grand design. Your children eat quietly, then ask permission to play before darkness falls. You grant it, and they run into the street to join their friends. Their laughter mixes with the sounds of the city settling into evening, the splash of canoe paddles. Distant voices, the clatter of cooking pots, a dog barking somewhere in the labyrinth of streets. Night falls quickly once the sun disappears behind the mountains. The city transforms. Torches and fires create pools of light separated by deep shadows. The canals become dark ribbons reflecting the stars. From the great temple, you hear the sound of drums. Deep, resonant, rhythmic. The priests are performing ceremonies that most citizens never witness. You know what happens atop those pyramids. Everyone knows. Captive warriors, offered to the gods so that the sun will rise, the rains will come, the world will continue in its proper course. There are those from other lands who do not understand this. Who see it as cruelty rather than necessity. But you have been taught since childhood that the gods sacrificed themselves to create the world, to set the sun in motion. Blood debt must be repaid. This is the covenant that keeps existence itself from unraveling. You do not dwell on these thoughts. They are too large, too heavy for a craftsman's mind. Instead, you think about tomorrow's work, about the obsidian core you have been carefully preparing, about the tools you will create. You lie on your sleeping mat, your wife beside you, your children breathing softly in their own corner of the room. Through the doorway, you can see stars reflected in the canal water. The city is quiet now, except for the occasional footsteps of the night watch, the distant drums from the temple precinct, the gentle lap of water against stone. This is your world. Ordered, eternal, magnificent. Tenochtitlan has stood for generations, growing in power and glory. The Emperor Moctezuma rules from a palace so vast that it houses thousands. The armies of the Mexica are invincible. The tribute flows endlessly inward. The gods are satisfied you do not know that in 3 years, men will come from across the eastern sea. You do not know that they will form alliances with peoples who have suffered under Mexica rule, who dream of revenge and freedom. You do not know that weapons of fire and metal will break against the causeways, that disease will sweep through these streets like an invisible army, that the temples will fall and the canals will run red. You do not know that the lake itself will one day be drained, that a new city will rise over the ruins of this one, that Tenochtitlan will become a memory preserved in old books and archaeological sites, a name that people struggle to pronounce in languages that do not yet exist. Tonight, the greatest city in the Americas sleeps peacefully. The stars wheel overhead. The water whispers against ancient stones. And tomorrow, you believe, will be exactly like today. The drums fall silent. The fires burn low. Tenochtitlan dreams its final dreams of permanence, unaware that history is already moving toward it across the water, unstoppable as the rising sun.